Hello, what's up? Can anybody hear me? Okay. Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon. From wherever you're watching from, my name is Aremu Smog, and I welcome you to the first part of this series of live session on how to go headless with WordPress using GatsbyJS. For a little bit of confirmation, I would like to post a question in the comment section if you can hear me. Uh, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Oh, nobody is online. Okay. So let me quickly check my phone here to ensure that my audio is clear. Okay, awesome. So let's get to it. So like I said, my name is Aremu Smog, and I'll be taking you through this journey of how to go headless with WordPress, making use of GatsbyJS. A little bit about myself before we go deep into the session. I'm a JAMstack developer, and I work at a company called Fort Canvas. Fort Canvas is a brand-centric design agency, and we partner with good businesses and that to make impact. At Fort Canvas, my primary job, or what I do presently, is helping our clients migrate from content management systems such as WordPress to JAMstack, of course, using WordPress as a headless content management system. I also lead the team here at WebBoss, and what we do at WebBoss is to make web development relatable, easy, and easy for people. Yeah. So I hope that serves for a little bit of intro. So let's get into it. So throughout this session, I'll be walking you through how you can go headless with WordPress and using Gatsby.js, right? But before we get into the technical part where we'll write codes and all of that, we'll talk a little bit about the theory. Why do we need a content management system? Why do you need something such as Gatsby in order to be able to pull your data? Like, why do you even need to go headless in the first instance, since platforms like WordPress already provide you with both the back end and the front end and pretty much everything that you need? We talk a little bit about the theory sides of things before we go ahead to build what we'll be building. Before we take a look at what we'll be building, let me walk you through what we'll be talking about today. So today, I've done the introduction. We'll be talking about the JAMstack concept. We'll be talking about traditional CMS versus Headless CMS. We'll talk about Gatsby, a bit of introduction. I'll show you what we'll be building. Then we'll go ahead to install GatsbyJS, TailwindCSS, and I'll show you a little bit of how WordPress goes headless, even though we would not be using it yet. And I'm sorry I don't have a presentation yet. By next week, or a slide rather, by next week, I'll actually have a slide. There has been a lot of preparation that has gone into all of this, and we just need to go live. And also need to tell you that each of this session will not be more than 60 minutes, at most 90 minutes, because there will always be bugs, of course. So let's get into it. Yep. So I would like to start this way. The first thing is one thing that we really don't talk about, or that web developers know, but non-developers might not know, is that managing content is actually very, very hard. And here's what I mean. So, for example, for the user visits the website and they see a bunch of text, they see images, there may be videos, icons, and illustrations. And that's it for the user, right? But for the web developer, it's beyond that. The web developer literally sees HTML, CSS, JavaScript, image tags, hosting, database, and a whole lot of other things. Now, standing on that premise, I, as a developer, if I want to say start a blog, for example, I will simply create a folder on my laptop and probably create a bunch of HTML files and maybe a Markdown file, then wire things up, and I'm good to go. Now, even that is not as, even though it looks simple, even that process is not simple because I cannot even pull content dynamically. Then I'll, of course, consult a programming language like PHP in order to be able to do things dynamically. Now, in doing things dynamically, I am at this stage still hard coding things, which means that if I need an image, I will have to write a bunch of HTML in order to make an image come in on a blog post. If I need a video, I will have to write a bunch of HTML in order to be able to embed things. So let's say, for example, my blog grows wild and I need people to join me in creating, managing, and publishing content on my blog. And unfortunately enough for me, they don't understand what HTML even means or what JavaScript means and all of that. Let's say I then go ahead to say, okay, let me automate this process for them. What I can then go ahead to do is like build a PHP backend and wire things up and things are good to go. But then the problem is this. Now to be able to upload the content, I'll probably use the default HTML form, for example. But the problem is the default HTML form has limits to the kind of content that can go into it. It's primarily text. I cannot insert image, I cannot insert videos and all of that. And if I'm going to do that, or if I'm going to build a system like that, it's going to take a whole lot of time. In fact, for me personally, in the age of, there used to be all these plugins that they say you install and all those things. The honest truth is, personally, I never got my head around all of those plugins, right? Because the whole process just seemed complicated. Like you need to be able to transform like content on the fly. And that's just the part of creating the content alone. Not to talk of publishing and managing it. So it's the absolute ghettos. However, in order to be able to solve this problem, we add traditional CMS like WordPress doing the heavy lifting for us, which means that, so let me just show what a WordPress backend looks like. So which means that literally for me to be able to insert an image, I only have to click this button. And remember how I told you that it's actually hard for one person or a single developer to have been able to create this. WordPress has been around for years, and there are developers working on WordPress. So I don't know the number of people that worked on this feature alone, but you can see that this is not the kind of thing that you want to do as an individual. Now, that's how we got to the age of traditional content management systems like WordPress. But the only problem that traditional content management systems that they posed was it was difficult for you to customize stuff, right? So, and before I go further, the thing is, WordPress as a platform was primarily created to be a blogging platform. Then as time went by, it became a platform where you could literally like build an entire website from start to finish, your portfolio website, e-commerce website, and so on and so forth. But it introduced a problem in that there was restriction to the way you could make your content appear. Then a new era came, an era of themes and templates. Now, what themes and templates attempted to help us do is create some pre-made design, some pre-made good-looking design that you can easily plug into. But themes and templates did work fine for people who don't work in a brand-centric design agency like I do. But if you work in an agency like Fort Canvas, the problem you would have is our designers would design something that does not fit into any template in the world. And in order to be able to customize things, in order to be able to fit into the template, of course, you build on a template, you have to write tons and tons and tons and tons of CSS. Then for me personally, I'm like, wow, like must life be really this hard? Like if I want to build stuff from scratch, let me know I'm building stuff from scratch. If I want to use a content management system or leverage on a content management system, let me know that I'm fully leveraging on a content management system, not that I'm trying to, like I'm doing the work of, I'm using two approaches in one system. It just doesn't make sense. Of course, traditional content management systems, the advantage was it gave us a place to easily create content, it gave us a place to easily manage content and all of those things. But it didn't give us so much flexibility in order to be able to customize the way our content appeared. And of course, you will talk about Elementor and modern page builders. Elementor came in and gave us the ability to be able to be in charge. So Elementor is a page builder. Elementor is not a theme or a template. So, but the problem is because I have used Elementor. In fact, at First Canvas, before we migrated to JAMstack, we were using Elementor for client projects. The problem with Elementor or with every WordPress website is speed. So it means that you have flexibility in design, but there was issues with speed. You have to do a lot of optimization and all of that. Like you literally have to employ somebody to come and help you optimize your website after you have done. You are done. So for me, I'm like, what's the meaning of that? Like, can't I just build a website and there will be happily ever after without having to worry so much about optimization and so many other things that are supposed to come outside of the box? Then the era that we are in now is the era of JAMstack. And like I put it down here in my notes, I said that JAMstack is the way, the truth, and the life. Like no one built No one builds a dope website or a good website in 2021 without it. So theoretically, JAMstack stands for JavaScript API and Markup. JavaScript is, of course, one of the most popular programming languages for building stuff on the web, and application programming interface API is basically you sourcing data from various sources, and markup, of course, is your HTML. So JAMstack enables you to be able to source data from anywhere, and I mean just about anywhere, and bring it into your HTML. And once you bring something into your HTML, it means that you can use CSS to have full control over it. So it's literally like you are building your stuff from scratch, which is like the front end, which is what the user sees, while you leave the heavy lifting of what goes on behind the scene of managing content to an API. And please do not get me wrong. There are API for CMSs like WordPress, and there are normal APIs for, let's say, banking apps or saving apps like Piggyvest and Carrywise and the rest, right? But and that's basically Jamstack. So Jamstack could be as small as, create a login system and you plug it into an API. It could be as big as, you plug it into a CMS, like let's say Shopify for e-commerce and so on and so forth. So that's basically the way Jamstack work. So so that's basically the way Jamstack works. So it's essentially, I have a WordPress blog, I have a WordPress website. I can easily pull in my data into a Jamstack, into with JavaScript, and just build my website with it. And for me, I've actually used GatsbyJS so far so good. That's like literally my introduction into the world of Jamstack. Of course, I did a little bit of things with Axios back then with React and all of that, but I don't even code React. I don't even do Scratch React these days. I do Gatsby, and I'm hoping to pick up Next.js up next. So now on blog posts or managing content with so let me talk a little bit about Headless CMS now. So headless means that it doesn't have a head. If it doesn't have a head, it doesn't have a face, but it of course has a body. So like I've said, or like I've mentioned briefly, is you are abstracting away the data. You are letting something else undo the way your website would look, while your CMS still remains the way it is. So and the thing is, WordPress is like one of powers more than 30% of websites on the World Wide Web. And what does that mean? What that means is that not a lot of people would be willing to move away from WordPress. Of course, there are some platforms that are headless by default. We have platforms like Sanity, we have platforms like Contentful, Dacto CMS, and so on and so forth. But the reason I actually chose WordPress for this particular session is so many people are already familiar with the interface of WordPress. You understand the in and the out. If there's anything wrong, they know where to debug and all of that. So I just feel like it's wise enough to go with WordPress. So now we'll take a look at what we'll be building. Then we will go ahead and install Gatsby, set up Gatsby, then basically set up our environment, and that will be all for this session. And nobody's on this live stream. Amazing. So I'm opening up Figma now. Then I would open the blog. Right. So I'll walk you through the things through what we'll be building, talk about the various components and the various parts of the blog. Then we install Gatsby, set up all our tooling for this session, and that will be the end of today's live stream, to be continued next week. Okay, can you see my screen? Of course you can. So basically, when you land on this website, you see this welcome to my blog, then there's this rocket emoji, then you have the posted in the category in which the post was posted, then the date it was posted, then the title of the title of the post in itself. So that's for that. We have a subscribe to newsletter section. That subscribe to newsletter section accepts the person's first name, their email address, and subscribe. This will be wired up with MailChimp. And that's that for that. Then there's this footer, then there's this buy me a coffee badge, which when you click on it, it takes you to a page where you can buy me a coffee. So that's that for the blog. And for the blog post in itself, which is when you click on any of the articles, you have the title of the blog post, you have the date it was posted, you have the featured image of the blog post, then you have this share button. And the way this share button is going to work is it's going to stick to the top as you scroll down. Then you have a few suggested posts or related posts there. You have the subscribe to newsletter button, and you have the buy me a coffee badge and this footer text here. So that's literally what we'll be building. This is the mobile version. This is the mobile version of the single blog post. Then this is the mobile version of the blog post in itself. So that's what we're building. Now, let's talk a little bit about the tools that we'll be using. So the tools we'll be using primarily is GatsbyJS, which will be the front end, and GatsbyJS claims to be the fastest front end for the modern web. We'll find out, I guess, during the session. We'll be using TailwindCSS for styling. Yeah, I think that's our primary stack for the session. Can you give me a second to check what else we'll be using? Then we use MailChimp for our newsletter, then WordPress for content management system. So let's go ahead and install GatsbyJS. So to install GatsbyJS, you need to install Gatsby CLI, Gatsby um, command line interface. So that's what you use to install Gatsby. And for you to be able to install the Gatsby CLI, you have to have npm installed on your PC. So to install Gatsby CLI, so I'll just right click here and do git bash. I did git UI, git bash, then simply do Gatsby. Sorry, I did Gatsby develop. So then you just do npm Gatsby CLI. I have Gatsby CLI installed already, so I won't install Gatsby CLI. And to confirm, I'll simply do Gatsby CLI -v. Oh, okay. I will simply do Gatsby -v just to check for the version of Gatsby. So you can see we have Gatsby CLI version 3.10 installed. To install Gatsby CLI, you simply do Gatsby npm install Gatsby CLI. So the next thing, so once you have Gatsby CLI installed, you can simply do Gatsby new, then the name of your project. So here we have various folders, part one, part two, and all of those things. So I'll simply do going headless with WordPress. Going headless with WordPress. So I'll do Gatsby new, going headless with WordPress. And of course, this begins to, so this will create a new folder, then clone the Gatsby starter default into the folder, and voila, we have GatsbyJS installed. So I think this is setting up and just trying to sync with my Google Docs. And so let's just give this a minute to be done. It shouldn't take so much time for it to be done. Okay, so installing packages, npm packages. All right. So the packages are still getting installed. Of course, it's supposed to take a few seconds for the packages to be done installing. So, and I think the packages that are getting installed are essentially npm packages that comes out of the box with this. So I would, oh, can you see my screen? Okay, yeah. Then you can see my screen, right? Let me check up. I just lost power, so okay, cool. Uh, okay. So this is still installing. So let me just open this up in VS Code. Right. VS Code is coming up now. Okay. The node modules folder. Now this will be absolutely get this. The node modules folder is empty. So that means that the packages are still getting installed. Okay. So while that installation is going on, because I don't want to waste your time. Your time is precious, right? So let's take a look into Tailwind. So Tailwind is what I've been using for a lot of projects these days, and to be honest, it's just awesome. Tailwind is an utility first CSS framework. What that means is that it does not come with, unlike Bootstrap, whereby you already have components and their behaviors. What Tailwind does is it allows you to be able to style things exactly the way you want. So if you want to add a padding, you are the one that defines what padding you want and all of those things. So essentially, you focus on your HTML while Tailwind handles your CSS for you, because all the classes that you would ever need are already been provided, and you can also you can also extend the features, right? You can also customize things the way you want. So let's look into the documentation and the installation. So there's a way you're supposed to install for GatsbyJS. It's actually simple and straightforward. So this guy is still installing. If the installation doesn't get completed by the time we are done with this, we'll simply go ahead and just install the packages manually. So you can see we have Gatsby, we have this. So I'll cancel this guy out. Okay, so it seems that JIT is there is issues with JIT. Okay, these things happen. All right. Okay, so I'll do npm install all the packages that I might be needing. So far, the package.json file has been created, and the Gatsby config.js has been created. So we can manually install. So it's saying no such file as this. You should commit this file, blah, 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 blah. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess what's happening now. So we have to do, okay, so let me just do things from there. It's because I was not in the correct directory, that's why. So I will simply do Gatsby. What? I'm so used to doing Gatsby develop. Oh, look at me. npm install. npm install. npm install. npm install. Okay, so the packages are getting installed now. So just give it a few seconds, right? So that's why I actually didn't want us to do so much in this particular session, because setting this up can take some time. And once we have all of this set up, in sessions to come, we just go straight into writing the code in order to ensure that what will be to ensure that we build what we want to build, right? If that's the correct English. So if you are just joining us, this is what we'll be building in this session. So while that is getting installed, so this is what we'll be building. Uh, this is what we'll be building. And please, if you're online, please show me some love by dropping some comments in the comment section. I'm not a serious person. Uh, so Figma is loading up, packages are getting installed. Life is good, isn't it? See what YouTube recommends for me. Okay, so I think this might be a good time for me to start thinking of how to get another PC, right? This PC hangs on. This PC tends to hang when I'm doing live stream these days. So that's why. Okay, this page is still loading up. So here's what we're building. This guy will be linked to Mailchimp. Then by the time this website is live, you can buy me a coffee to support my ministry to get another PC, right? Then this is the single blog post page. I just particularly like the header of this section. So what's going on here? Post install is hanging. So if that won't work, let's try and see if we can spin up another Gatsby installation actually, because this life is not hard. If one way doesn't want to work, another way should work. So Gatsby new. Let me just say WordPress blog. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, this is getting installed already. Okay, awesome. The installation of this is going on. So let's just give it a minute, seconds. If you have any questions, if you are watching this post live session, please feel free to drop your question. There are still a lot of sessions coming up, like 3 or 4 more sessions after this. So I will do well to go through your questions and answer them before that time. And if you are online and you have any questions, please, you can ask also. And if you'd like me to bring you on, like, let us just be gisting as we are building this stuff. I can actually send you an invite. We use StreamYard to stream this stuff, so I can invite you to StreamYard to join me on this session while we talk and we build. And also, please, while this is installing, don't forget to check out WebBoss. Don't forget to check out our blog, webboss.com.ng. There are a lot of awesome stuff here. Tutorials, stories about web developers like you, what's going on daily in their life, and so many more. Webboss.com.ng is the URL to visit. And if you like to sponsor, yeah, because I believe that the Lord can use you to sponsor. If you are just joining this session, I'm not just playing around though. This is what I'm doing. We are installing a couple of stuffs. If you want to sponsor, the Lord wants to use it to sponsor, send a mail to hello@webboss.com.ng. And we'll talk about your brand here. Yep. We don't have a lot of audience yet, but we are trusting in the Lord that we have a lot of audience very soon. So show us some level of faith by reaching out to us for sponsorship. Yeah. So you can read stories here on our blog, Day in the Life of a Web Boss, articles, and so many awesome stuffs here. Really, really awesome stuffs. Yeah. So this is taking forever to install. Let's just give it a few seconds and all of this will be done. But I think we're on time though. The plan was 60 seconds and this is almost 30 minutes. And I totally anticipated that we are going to spend a lot of time in installation. So that's why so much was not scheduled for today. It was not in the plan for today. Okay. Oh my God. I think this is the longest Gatsby installation I've ever had. But once it's done, it's done. That's the beautiful thing. Once it's done, it's done. Once it's done, it's done. Okay, so there's a lot of packages that needs to be installed. Let's check the package.json file. You can see there actually isn't so much, but I'm sure there are a lot of dependencies and all of that. That's why this is taking so much time to get installed. I doubt there's a way to pause stuffs here, but let's just see. Let's just see how it goes. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. I guess what I should have done was actually install this ahead of time. I just wanted you to like get a feel of what it feels like to set things up from scratch. That's why I decided to do this here, right? But let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. If Because so the reason, another reason is when you are setting things up like this and somebody just says, "Oh, just install, just press npm this, npm that." Many a times the problem is you're trying to do these things and you run into problems, right? So I just wanted to ensure that if I run into any problems or any bugs, it's something I can fix here live, and I feel like that would be much more tangible than just asking you to go and figure things out on your own. So if you think this approach is bad, which apparently is looking so now, just let me know in the comment section. Okay, if by 6:35 p.m. West African time, this is not done, I think I'll actually go ahead to use an existing installation to carry on with this explanation. Oh, and that's such a brilliant rhyme. That has more sense. So 6:33 installation is still ongoing. So I guess like this is what you would actually face in real life. Like if you were installing this is exactly what you would face. It would take minutes for you to get this installed. And what may I usually do in moments like this is I'll just go on Twitter and just be wasting my life away until this is done. Yeah. And sometimes, um, like when we say we are software developer and all of those things, like if to be able to install Gatsby alone is taking minutes, right? And that's not, it's not like when this thing is done, this is what we install the Gatsby for you. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. But let's see. So about a minute to go, and I'm actually on Twitter now. Okay, the plugins are installing now. Why do I feel like It's going to take forever for these plugins to finish installing. Why? Why do I have a feeling? It doesn't take this long, ideally. And I'm actually grateful for the fact that the network seems a bit stable today, right? This is like the first live stream that I'll be having, and in 30 minutes, network has not been interrupted. That's amazing. Whew. This is taking too long. So I will use an existing installation. Let me come over here. Documents. I remove smog. Then Gatsby 10 times. So I was trying to wrap my head around this installation. That's why I worked on this. Okay. Let's open this with code and let's just get things started with them. So we'll still check on this guy as we go along. I just don't want to waste your time, which I've done a good job at wasting a huge part of it. Oh, in fact, I have Tailwind set up here already. So I'll just go ahead and go over everything again, like from scratch. So I'll remove a few. I'll remove a few plugins. Those are plugins that ideally I should not be using, or that we need to install from scratch, right? So okay, okay, good. So because we have Gatsby CLI installed, to see how the way this works, I'll simply do Gatsby develop. So my PC is hanging. That's because I'm trying to run like two instances of Gatsby. I have two windows open in Chrome, and I haven't restarted in like years. But let's see how this goes. This thing is still trying to load up a few stuffs and all. Moral lesson is have money before you start live streaming. Can be developed. Why is this jumping like 50 steps? Okay, no. Let me do this with Git bash. Almost everything here is actually taking a lot of time to get done. Even Git bash is taking like forever. That's to develop. I'm just wondering how long it will actually take. So let me actually close a few tabs here. Then let me merge this guy with that was a very bad. Hey God, Gatsby developer has not even started moving at all. Medo, 100% CPU. What? Are you kidding me? I love Japanese. Gatsby developer is yet to start. I'm so sorry, guys. Apparently, my device is getting really old for this kind of stuff. So I guess that's why it's taking forever for this to load. So as you can see, this guy is trying to. So this guy is loading up. Gatsby developer is coming up now. Create pages successfully. Manifest this one, that one, all of that. Okay. All right. So Gatsby develop is coming up. We'll be able to preview our Gatsby installation very soon. So just imagine like Like you're at work or at your 9 to 5, and you are spending 30 minutes or even an hour installing Gatsby, and client is already asking you, where's the header? So this software development job, sometimes I think it's scam because you can spend like an hour or even a whole day debugging, and you're not able to turn anything in at the end of the day. How do you now explain to the client and your project manager that I mean this thing is not working? He said, but regardless, we move, right? So we're hoping that the installation of this guy will be completed while we're also trying to uh run an existing instance of Gatsby on my PC. All right. What are the people that are online? Okay, still saying success run page queries. By now, we should have a message that says you should be able to uh, do stuffs like open localhost 8,000 in order to get stuffs done. Oh, awesome. Localhost 8,000. You can see this is where we can preview stuffs. But Git Bash is so dull, you can't do stuff like that. So localhost 8,000. And we have GatsbyJS installed. I'm not even sure what version of Gatsby this is. You can check in the Gatsby config, right? Or package.json rather. Okay, Gatsby 3. Awesome. I just wanted to ensure that's what we have. All right. So just give it a few seconds. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there you have it. Gatsby starter default, and that's it. So we have Gatsby installed now. The next thing we want to do is install Tailwind CSS. And to do that, so basically just come to Tailwind CSS docs, installation. You can decide to cram all of this, but those are not even like the really important steps right now. So I'll come over here to the terminal for the blog one, then hide this guy, then install. I don't understand why this guy is behaving this way. So let me just open another instance of Git bash here to install stuffs. Paste, install. Then of course you have to give that a few seconds also. I guess I'll have to. Oh, so finally this got installed. Amazing. So let me see. Okay, yeah. So npm install. Let me see if it will work. If it works actually, I actually do not mind. So let's see the one that goes first. All right. So, in fact, this is getting installed already. So I'll just cancel this guy out. Just cancel it out. It's taking forever to install. Then I'll cancel this server also. Then God, these things are bound to happen, right? On a live stream, especially when your internet is not the strongest in the world. Okay, so let me close this up. So let's just give this a few seconds, please. So I guess that's why tutorials are different from live streams, right? If this was a tutorial, we'll simply just cut all of this off. But right now we are streaming live and everything is live and you can see everything that's going on. Yeah. So so you can see here the packages that we installed are Gatsby plugin for CSS, Tailwind CSS, Auto Prefixer. So basically, all of this enables you to be able to use Tailwind with Gatsby. And the really important thing, one step that I've missed a lot in the past that I think you shouldn't miss is please don't forget to add Gatsby plugin posts, Gatsby plugin posts, CSS to your Gatsby config.js file, Gatsby plugin for CSS. The next thing you need to do is say npx init tailwind, then -t. So basically what this does is it generates a tailwind configuration file for you and a post CSS configuration file. So both of which you will see in a minute. So npx, oh sorry, npx tailwind CSS init -p. So initialize tailwind config.js JS and post css.config.js. So this post, which basically I don't know what it does to be honest. This is where I've worked in the past. So so the next thing is you need to set up a tailwind.css file. So I'll come within the source folder here. And sorry, I'm not talking about the folder structure of Gatsby and all of that. We'll get into that next week. So the focus this week is just to set things up for for the other parts of the project, right? So within source here, I'll come over to I'll simply create a style folder and I'll do a new file and call it tailwind.css. Okay, so I guess we have a few minutes. So let me quickly talk about the folder structure. So let me do Gatsby develop. Then we'll talk about the folder structure. Gatsby develop. So just to talk through something. So while that is going on, so the way the folder structure works is this. You should have some familiarity with ReactJS for you to be able to understand this tutorial. I forgot to mention that at the very beginning, but I think we mentioned that on the registration page. So this pages folder basically represents pages on your website. So for example, index.js refers to the home page, and you don't need to do any form of routing. GatsbyJS handles the routing for you by default. If you create a new file and call it, let's say, contact.js, that would be the contact page under this pages folder. Within this components folder, you can then create components that are reusable across various parts of the website. And of course, me, I have like my own personal approach for this, which we'll take a look at future in future sessions. This images folder contains your images, and Then I created a new folder here called tailwind.css, which is where I would set things up. What do you call it? Set things up, right? So let's take a look at the layout.js. So if you take a look at the layout.js, we have a CSS file being imported already. I'll remove that CSS file. And no, I would not be importing this tailwind.css file. Oh, sorry, before we do that, let this guy be done compiling before we do all of that. So when this guy is done, we'll take a look at what the website looks like at the moment. Then when we bring in Tailwind CSS, how we can style things up and all of that. And I forgot to mention that there's actually a GatsbyJS starter for Tailwind CSS, but I don't use any of the open source starters. At Fortnite, personally, we have like uh, starters that we've observed, that we've created from patterns that we've observed like in most projects, and most of the starters out there do not actually have, and they are private because of course company work, you can't just put it out there. So that's why I'm not using a Tailwind CSS starter. Okay, good. So we have some blah, 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 blah. So let's go to local hosts. Local hosts. So what we should see should be similar to what we had before, but slightly different. What kind of English is that? Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. It's slightly different in typography. You can see that this is a sans serif, this is a sans serif, and this is a serif. So we are good to go. So now see what happens when I come here and I say import, I remove import layout.css. Essentially the website breaks. Okay, yeah. The website is broken. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'll come over to tailwind.css and I will say at tailwind. I think tailwind intelligence is not. I would say at tailwind base, yeah. At at tailwind at tailwind components, tailwind components, then at tailwind utilities, and that's it. Then come over to Gatsby browser, yeah, Gatsby browser.js, then simply do import source style, then tailwind.css. So save that up and let's see what happens. So at the very least, the font should change or something. And even if nothing happens, there's still a way we can style things up. So it is rebuilding development. If this finishes up quickly, we should still be able to stop this live stream by exactly 7 p.m., which should be 60 minutes, like we had anticipated. God rest ye merry men. Okay, good. You can see, yeah, the font change just like I anticipated. So this shows that Tailwind CSS is in. Okay. So actually, we can come to the end of this live stream, but let me just give you a taste of what Tailwind CSS looks like. So we have I people here, and it was bold and all before, right? If you remember what it looked like before. So I can simply come in here and say class name equals, let's say, font bold. So there's supposed to be auto suggestion. That's because I actually need to restart stuff and all this. But by next week, you have all of that. So font bold, and I'll just say text to Excel. That will decrease the font size. So let's see. You can see, good. So you can have 5XL, 5XL, and the font is big and all of that. We'll look more into styling and other things by next week, of course. So next week, here's what we are going to be doing next week, or what we are going to be building next week. So by next week, we'll start with creating this header. We'll create this post component, and we'll look at the possibility of bringing it in, like we'll look at the possibility of laying it out like this on the page, right? Then probably the subscribe to newsletter. I doubt we'll be able to do the subscribe to newsletter, but I'm very sure that we'll do welcome to my blog. We'll create this component because it's just 60 minutes. We'll create this component, try to lay it out. Then if there's some time, we'll add this subscribe to newsletter section, of course, with no functionality and the footer. So if we're able to do that, then we'll move on to adding functionality the week that follows, then doing the then link to the single blog page, and yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Thanks for joining this session. If you enjoyed this session, or you think there are anything that can be done to make this session better, please kindly drop them in the comment section. If yeah, so thank you very much for joining this session, and I hope to see you next week. Cheers.